Once upon a time, in a small and peaceful village, there lived an old woman in a humble little house. She owned no wealth, yet she possessed a priceless treasure, a kind heart and a gentle smile that never seemed to fade. Her life was far from easy, but whether on stormy days or in bright sunshine, she remained calm and cheerful. Because of this, the villagers loved her deeply. They often came to her for advice, comfort, or simply to hear the warmth in her soothing voice. One day, a young man visited her. His heart was heavy with doubts and worries about life. Curious about her constant cheerfulness, he asked, "Grandmother, why are you always smiling? Haven't you ever felt sad when misfortune comes your way?" The old woman smiled softly, her eyes shining with experience. She answered slowly, "Life has its ups and downs. There is joy, and there is sorrow. But I have learned that happiness does not come from circumstances. It comes from the way we choose to look at things." Her words were simple, yet they carried a strange power. The young man fell silent, lost in thought, before asking again, "You say happiness comes from within, but how can anyone be happy when life turns against them?" The old woman nodded gently, her smile unchanged, and began to tell her own story. "When I was young, I had a small family. We were poor, but our home was filled with laughter from my husband and children. I thought I had everything. But one day, my husband became gravely ill. We had no money for treatment, and soon he passed away. That was the darkest day of my life. I thought my heart would never know happiness again." Her eyes grew distant with the memory, but her voice remained steady. "In those days, I drowned in despair. I didn't know if I could carry on. But then I realized something: if I kept clinging to my pain, I would lose what I still had. My children still needed a mother. They needed to see me strong. From that moment, I chose to change. I stopped letting grief imprison me and began to look for the small things around me that were still beautiful." Her face lit up as she continued, "Every morning, I told myself, today is a new day. And surely there will be something to smile about. Maybe just a ray of sunshine, a wildflower by the road, or a neighbor's warm greeting. Happiness, my dear, often lives in those simple little things." The young man listened closely, his heart slowly opening. Still, he hesitated and asked softly, "But grandmother, what if something truly terrible happens? How can you still smile then?" The old woman closed her eyes for a moment, her face calm with the peace of one who has weathered many storms. She spoke gently, "It is never easy, child. When sorrow comes, I feel pain just like anyone else. But I remind myself that everything will pass, both joy and sorrow are only temporary. If I cling to my suffering, I will miss the beauty that is still here. So instead, I choose to focus on what I still have: health, friends, and simply the gift of another day of life." Her eyes glowed with unshakable faith. Happiness is always a choice. We can choose to see only loss and grief, or we can choose to search for even the smallest spark of light to keep our hearts alive. I won't say it is always easy. Some days are unbearably heavy. But if we are patient, we will notice a bird's song, a sudden smile, or the quiet peace of a morning, and that alone can be enough to warm the soul." The young man fell silent for a long time. Then a deep gratitude shone in his eyes. From that day on, he began to change. He learned to find joy in the simplest things: a cool breeze, a modest meal, a friendly handshake. Slowly, he became more optimistic, no longer letting small troubles rule his mind. The story of the old woman spread throughout the village. People began to understand that happiness is not about having everything, but about cherishing what you already have. They stopped complaining, stopped dwelling in despair, and instead learned to smile even in difficult times. The village grew warmer, laughter echoed more often, and every heart found a little more peace. The old woman's simple yet profound wisdom left a lasting mark. Happiness does not depend on circumstances. It depends on how we choose to see life. And it was that very choice that transformed the small village into a place filled with peace and love.